0737 local time, October 27, 2025, Eastern Caribbean Sea. The morning light rolled across the open Caribbean, a bright calm, broken only by the slow thrum of USCGC Hamilton's twin diesels. Seas steady at 1.5 meters, wind 12 knots out of the east, visibility 12 miles, ideal for patrol. On the bridge, the air smelled of coffee and salt. Crewmen spoke in low voices, working through morning checklists. Our alarm cut through the routine. A faint contact blinked into existence at 42 nautical miles, bearing 187, speed 21 knots. No AIS transmission, no navigation lights, and no response to standard identification calls. Got a runner, the operations officer muttered. In the Combat Information Center, screens came alive in a glow of green and amber. The first contact, now tagged Sierra 1, matched the profile of a steel-hulled go-fast, a favorite among Caribbean traffickers. Its course line streaked northwest across open water. Seconds later, a second radar return appeared, Sierra 2, larger, denser, and closing from the opposite vector. The computer resolved its track and radar cross-section in seconds. Venezuelan Navy Guam Macuto-class patrol ship range, 40 miles and rising fast. The two tracks would intersect within 12 minutes if neither altered course. On Hamilton's bridge, conversation stopped. The commanding officer leaned over the chart table with a pencil. "That's not coincidence," he said quietly. "They're crossing our intercept box." He didn't need to add what everyone already knew. The Coast Guard's mission that morning was to intercept narcotics traffickers in international waters, not to play cat and mouse with a foreign navy. But now both jobs had landed in the same patch of sea. In the CIC, red lights dimmed further as technicians fine-tuned frequency bands. The electronic support measures console listened for radar or fire control. None yet. The surface plotting display showed 3 icons. Now the Hamilton, the Go Fast, and the Venezuelan patrol ship, all moving in a tightening triangle. Above the main screen, a single line glowed. Live feed sector Key West, divided by Jayat F South. Every frame was being transmitted in real time to command. The captain's voice came through calm but clipped. "Hold course. Record everything." At 0741, the bridge attempted standard hails. "Unidentified vessel. This is United States Coast Guard, Cutter Hamilton, operating in international waters. You are closing at high speed. Identify yourself immediately." Silence. Then static. "Try channel 13, the comms officer said. Another hail. Nothing. The Venezuelan ship continued on its vector speed, increasing to 22 knots, bow cutting the swell. Through binoculars, its outline came into focus. Gray hull forward gun mount radar dome turning. Definitely military, not commercial drift. The silence itself had become a message. The captain gave a simple order. "Set condition 3. Launch prep for the Dolphin." The deck crew moved fast. On the flight deck, the orange and white MH-65 Dolphin helicopter rolled into position, blades folded out under the morning glare. Fuel hoses snapped free. The rotors started to turn. Below deck, the 26-foot over the horizon RHIB was armed cameras, activated body cams recording every motion. The cutter shifted from patrol to intercept mode in less than 2 minutes. Efficient, deliberate, rehearsed 100 times before. At 0746, the Dolphin lifted from the deck, rotor wash scattering spray over the stern. From its sensors, the scene widened. 3 vessels, 3 agendas, 1 smuggler fleeing, 1 Navy ship maneuvering to interfere, 1 Coast Guard cutter holding the thin line between law enforcement and confrontation. Inside the CIC, technicians tracked bearings and closing speeds. The collision plot tightened. The Venezuelan patrol ship's course would pass less than 800 yards from Hamilton's bow. "Maintain speed," the captain ordered. "We give them the right of way, we hand them the narrative." The helmsman's hands tightened on the wheel. "Aye, sir," holding steady. The tension climbed steel. At 0749, the Go Fast turned sharply north, straight back into the intercept zone. Whether by panic or plan, it dragged both larger vessels into a collision triangle. "They're using us as cover," the XO said. The captain nodded once. Then we'll use the rulebook. The RHIB splashed down, engines roaring as 6 boarding officers throttled up. Spray glittered in the sunlight as the inflatable surged forward, bow leaping through the chop. Overhead, the Dolphin fired a flare non-lethal international signal for danger, streaking across the sky between both warships. The flare burned crimson, reflecting off Hamilton's bridge windows and the gray hull of the Venezuelan ship. For 10 seconds, the sea fell silent. Engines idled, radios hissed. Every man aboard felt the weight of those seconds, proof that peace at sea often balances on a thread thinner than radar paint. Then, the chase resumed. The RHIB carved through the waves, closing meter by meter. The cutter held course instruments, steady cameras rolling. The morning sun climbed higher, glinting off steel and spray as the United States Coast Guard prepared to make contact under the gaze of a watching world. From the bridge of Hamilton, the scene unfolded in real time, across screens and binocular lenses, a choreography of power, discipline, and tension. At 0757, the RHIB closed in on the go-fast over the bow like shards of glass. The Dolphin helicopter hovered at 400 feet, its optical turret painting infrared light over the chase. Inside the cutter's Combat Information Center, operators spoke in clipped tones range to target bearing drift closing velocity. The air was thick with the hum of electronics and the rhythmic tap of keyboards. On the video feed, the smuggler's boat pitched wildly in the swells. 3 heat signatures crouched low near the stern, tossing objects overboard, packages bursting into white plumes on radar. Evidence dump confirmed the sensor tech called out, "Record everything." Aboard Hamilton, the commanding officer watched the convergence of 3 vessels on the tactical screen. The Venezuelan patrol ship Sierra II had now altered course to shadow Hamilton's starboard quarter, maintaining a distance just under 1,000 yards. Its speed matched the cutter's perfectly, as though tethered by invisible wire. Bridge CIC Venezuelan hull, now 0.8 nautical miles, bearing 130 relative, the watch supervisor reported. "Copy," the captain replied. His eyes didn't move from the window. "Keep them there. Don't blink." On the starboard wing, sailors scanned through binoculars. The Venezuelan ship loomed against the morning glare, deck crew visible along the rails, helmets glinting. A forward gun mount turned slightly off-axis, high enough to signal readiness, low enough to deny threat. It was unmistakable posture. At 0802, the RHIB made contact. The boarding team swung hooks over the smuggler's gunwale, securing the hull. The roar of twin outboards gave way to shouts, orders in English, protests in Spanish, then silence. CIC boarding team reports suspect secured, came the radio call moments later. Cargo confirmed, multiple bales, probable cocaine, approximately 1 ton. Copy, RHIB, the XO answered. Maintain chain of custody. We've got company watching, because the Venezuelan ship hadn't turned away. It was closing. 0806. The CIC radar showed its course, tightening toward Hamilton's flank. Bearing difference down to 70 degrees range, shrinking by tens of yards. The electronic support console registered a faint X-band spike radar scan mode, not fire control, but close enough to prickle every nerve. CO, the tactical officer, said they're brushing the boundary cone. Noted the captain said calm and steady. We stay legal, we stay filmed, we stay professional. He stepped onto the bridge wing. The morning wind tore at his jacket collar, the scent of aviation fuel thick in the air. Out across the sea, the Venezuelan cutter's turbines growled low and even. Between them stretched a mile of blue water, now tense enough to hum. Inside the CIC, every station worked the playbook. One operator logged bearing to the 10th range to the yard RPM estimates by wake morphology. Another annotated AIS silence, persistent. On the large repeater, display a green wedge, marked Hamilton's safe water cone, the space no foreign ship was allowed to breach. Helm maintain 20 knots, steady course 085, the captain ordered. Aye, sir, 20 knots 085. On the aft deck, the RHIB returned engines roaring as it surged up the cradle. The boarding officers were soaked faces streaked with salt spray and adrenaline. Evidence crates gleamed wet and white under the deck lights. Cameras rolled as crew members logged timestamps and sealed each package. The Coast Guard's discipline was methodical, almost ceremonial. Every clip, every tag, every word recorded. 0812. The Dolphin helicopter banked wide, circling both vessels in slow arcs. From above, the geometry was perfect. One smuggler subdued, one cutter holding course, one foreign warship pressing the edge of provocation. The pilot transmitted a single-coded burst non-lethal laser pointer flashing across the Venezuelan bridge, a silent warning recorded in the optical log. On Hamilton's bridge, restraint felt physical. Shoulders locked, jaws set, breaths measured. Every instinct screamed to act, but professionalism meant endurance. "We don't drift into their narrative," the captain reminded. "They want reaction. We give procedure." At 0816, the Venezuelan ship crossed within 800 yards, dangerously close. Its searchlights blinked, once white cones sweeping the sea like a stage performance. No voice transmission, no signal flags, only visual dominance. "They're filming," the XO muttered. "They want the footage." "Good," said the captain. "So do we." 0819. The Dolphin called bingo fuel and turned toward Hamilton, still recording every second. The Venezuelan ship matched speed again, bow pointed dead ahead, both hulls now locked in parallel like mirrored steel. The only sound was the sea itself, engines thrumming under the skin of the water. In the CIC, someone whispered, "It's like a duel without bullets." "Exactly," said the watch supervisor. "And the one who flinches first loses." By 0822, the sun had risen high, flattening the sea into sheets of blinding silver. The cutter held steady. The Venezuelan ship held its line. Between them stretched 1,000 yards of silence, charged and deliberate, a balance so fragile that even the gulls circling above seemed to hesitate before crossing it. At 0827, the tension finally began to break, but not with words. The Venezuelan patrol ship's turbines changed pitch, a deep mechanical sigh that rippled across the flat sea. The ship held its position for nearly a full minute, then slowly angled west. No radio signal, no flag salute, just a measured withdrawal, deliberate and ceremonial. Its wake shimmered under the late morning sun, widening across the water like a fading scar. On Hamilton's bridge, the commanding officer gave a single nod. "Maintain visual until she's out of radar range." The reply came in unison. "Aye, sir." The CIC logged every frame. At 0831, the Venezuelan hull dropped below 2 miles. At 0839, she was just a faint echo on radar, her transponder still silent. Hamilton eased her throttles, returning to patrol speed. The captain stepped inside the bridge, poured a cup of coffee, and finally let out the breath he'd been holding for nearly an hour. "Log it," he said. "Hostile interference. No engagement." That short sentence would soon echo far beyond the Caribbean. In Washington, it was 0827 Eastern Time, and the video feed from Hamilton had already reached the National Security Council. Analysts from the Pentagon, Homeland Security, and the State Department watched the standoff replay in silence. On the large situation map, 2 colored icons, one red, one blue, circled each other, refusing to collide. The term scrolling across the briefing screen read, "Gray Zone Maritime Interference." It sounded clinical, but everyone in the room understood its weight. For weeks, Venezuelan patrols had shadowed American operations near Grenada and Dominica. Angry, after 2 drug smuggling boats linked to their navy were destroyed in joint U.S. Coast Guard Navy actions, Caracas had accused Washington of maritime aggression. Now, with the Hamilton footage, the United States had evidence that Venezuela had escalated again without firing a shot. The NSC's senior director spoke first. "This was designed to test our nerve, not our guns," and asked the National Security Advisor. "We passed," the director said. "They wanted a reaction for propaganda. Instead, they got restraint on tape." Back aboard Hamilton, the crew cleaned down the flight deck. The Dolphin helicopter was refueled and secured. The RHIB crew, still dripping seawater and sweat, stacked the seized narcotics in labeled crates, 1.1 metric tons of cocaine and chemical precursors. Technicians logged every timestamp sample and signature. The air was thick with salt and diesel, but the mood was quiet, sober pride, not celebration. By 0846, the horizon ahead was clear. The Venezuelan warship had vanished into haze, its radio silence unbroken. Above a Navy Pate, Ampere's Poseidon orbited at altitude, relaying high-resolution imagery back to Florida. Infrared showed the departing Venezuelan wake the heat bloom of Hamilton's engines, and the RHIB returning home, all sealed in digital record. The United States now had a perfect forensic footprint of the encounter, proof against any diplomatic distortion to come. As the morning war on the sea turned a brilliant blue-green, sunlight flared off the cutter's white hull, and the Stars and Stripes flag rippled from the mast in steady rhythm. The crew gathered on the aft deck, faces streaked with salt, eyes tired but steady. No one spoke loudly. They all understood what they had just done. They had stood within a mile of a foreign navy, captured smugglers, and upheld law in international waters without firing a single round. The XO joined the captain on the bridge wing. "Sir," he said quietly, "that was closer than anyone will ever know." The captain nodded. "That's the job. We don't flinch. We don't brag." He turned toward the horizon where the Venezuelan cutter had disappeared and added, "In this business, silence is the message." Hours later, in press rooms and intelligence briefings, that silence would be interpreted 100 different ways. To some, it would mean strength, proof that American composure could hold even under provocation. To others, it would look like hesitation, an open invitation for the next challenge. For the men and women aboard Hamilton, it meant something simpler: discipline under pressure. As the cutter resumed her patrol track toward Puerto Rico, the rhythmic vibration of her engines filled the air once more, a low, confident hum that seemed to declare the mission complete. Above, gulls wheeled in the sunlight. Below, deck evidence was sealed and reports transmitted. The Caribbean returned to its ordinary calm. But the digital trail remained, every bearing, every image, every second of restraint stored in servers half a world away. The Hamilton hadn't just seized narcotics that morning. She'd proven that American resolve doesn't always roar, it can whisper too. If you believe real strength lies not in firepower but in control, join the conversation. Leave your thoughts below. Was restraint the right call, or should America answer gray zone provocation with firmer deterrence? Subscribe to Military Power, stand with the fleet, and help us tell the real stories of courage and discipline. At sea, where history is still written in silence.